Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we're going to take a look at one panel in Chapter 33 of Kaiju number 8, and we're going to look at the deep emotional impact it has and all of the storytelling and world building that led up to this moment. I am, of course, talking about the panel that's basically just Hoshina's eye, his one eye. So the setup is this. Kafka's just revealed himself as Kaiju number 8. He's being held in this weird set of shackled chair at some inner location of Takakawa Base, and he's being monitored from a control room. In the control room, you see a couple of stressed out technicians monitoring Kaiju number 8's vitals and noting that he's showing no signs of transformation. And in the back of the control room, there is Hoshina, vice captain of the Defense Force. And at first glance, he's just standing there with his usual inscrutable expression. Now, there's a few things different. Number one, his shirt under his coat is stripes, which means, of course, that he's been bound from the neck down in bandages. Now, this is a very, very interesting bit of artwork, and I'm just going to make, on a very humorous side note, these are clearly bandages meant to show that he fractured many ribs during the assault, but I have never for the life of me seen the artist draw the bandages all the way up the neck, because one, wrapping a neck in bandages would be extremely uncomfortable and not serve any purpose that I know of, unless the bandages from about his clavicles up are more to keep lacerated skin sealed to prevent it from infection. But generally, the horizontal bandages go basically from below the armpits down, but this artist has shown to draw them all the way up his neck. But anyway, he also has the patch on his cheek showing that he's received medical attention. Now, the way he looks in that first panel, it's very, very non-committal, but then you get the second panel on that page, and again, it's just a close-up of his eyes. Now, Vice Captain Hoshina, he is the classic eyes closed, awesome character. He can, kick anybody out to the curb, take names. He's one of those cool-headed, focused characters who only open his eyes under intense, emotionally stressful situations when he's focusing on something. And in this one, he has his eyes open. Now, and the look on his face is just intense. His mouth is set in a grim line, and it appears that he's just staring off into space, thinking about something. Now, this image by itself shouldn't carry as much weight as it does, but it has just been loaded with emotional weight from all of the back chapters. Hoshina was probably more tied to Kafka in the story, to Kaiju number 8, than Captain Mina was from the very beginning. It was Vice Captain Hoshina who first suspected the connection between Kaiju number 8 and Kafka way back at the end of the admissions story arc. He saw that Kafka's vitals had disappeared at the same time that Kaiju number 8's 9.8 reading had appeared, and he was quick enough to make the connection, that the destruction that they saw on the training ground that day was the same as the destruction that had happened when Kaiju number 8 first appeared 3 months ago. Then he and Hoshina start bonding, and as Kafka said as Vice Captain Hoshina said himself, he was taken in by Kafka's charm. Now, one of the few defining character traits that we've learned about Vice Captain Hoshina so far is that he's very loyal to his troops. He doesn't just get out there and use his troops to protect the civilians or to serve some goal. He cares about taking care of his troops, which is pretty true to life in the situation. The captain, the main leader of an organization, keeps their eyes focused on the goal, and one of the primary jobs of the second in command is to take care of the troops, to make sure that they're being cared for and that they're up to snuff. And then you have the friendship that had been developing between Kafka and Vice Captain Hoshina. They have a very similar combat style, and they were declared rivals. They really understand each other on a fundamental level. They were both told that they couldn't do something. They both had to struggle and fight for their positions. They're both shooting for the same position by Mina's side. There is a lot of emotional connection between these two men. And the story has been building that up gradually over time. And then you have this moment where Vice Captain Hoshina has put everything together. They have Kaiju number 8 in custody. And after the battle, after everything's calmed down, everybody has time to think. And in this series of panels, you see Kafka, tied to the chair, thinking over his choices. And this is mirrored by the image of Vice Captain Hoshina standing there. And we get this chapter primarily from Kafka's perspective, but the mirroring pretty much states that Vice Captain Hoshina is going through the same thing. And I think Vice Captain Hoshina just looks ragged in this image. He's clearly not feeling all that great. And let's go over some of the reasons why. First off, he's got to be feeling responsible for this whole situation. He suspected, but he didn't say anything. Now, that is completely understandable because what would he have said? I think that this human is a kaiju. They had no framework of reference for that back at the beginning of the training arc. So Vice Captain Hoshina keeping his suspicions to himself made perfect sense. There was really nothing else he could have done. Otherwise, he would have just sounded crazy. Then he sort of probably feels guilty about turning a blind eye to the possibility because he did suspect, as crazy as it was, and the coincidences kept piling up of Kaiju number 8 showing up doing things that Kafka would have wanted to do if he had any power. Then you have the weird 0% combat power rating that Kafka had at the beginning, which was an initial red flag. And then you have the fact that Vice Captain Hoshina just diced Kaiju number 8 to pieces in their confrontation. So, knowing now that Kaiju number 8 is and was Kafka, Kafka had run out into the middle of a battlefield to rescue his friends, had put the beat down on Kaiju number 9, had taken bullets for 2 random Defense Force officers, things that Vice Captain Hoshina was aware of from the beginning. Remember, when Vice Captain Hoshina first confronted Kaiju number 8, his first words were basically, "I see you've been taking good care of my officers." Then Vice Captain Hoshina proceeded to slice and dice Kaiju number 8. I think he removed 5 limbs or 5 chunks of limbs and then drove the knife into Kaiju number 8's core. Then, taking all of this, Kaiju number 8 didn't strike back, but just hit the sword and knocked it out of Vice Captain Hoshina's hand. And Vice Captain Hoshina noticed that from the very beginning. So, Vice Captain Hoshina kind of has to deal with, he literally cut off his subordinate's limbs. Then Vice Captain Hoshina will fully understand why Kafka was so freaked out in the training room. Then you have the fact that Vice Captain Hoshina is now in charge of his capture. So dealing with all of this, the guilt of not figuring it out sooner, the stress of pitting his friendship with Kafka being pitted against his duty as an officer to contain and control kaiju, the fact that not very much time has passed between chapter 32 and 33, the fact that at least some of that time Vice Captain Hoshina was getting medical attention, and the fact that before the fight, Vice Captain Hoshina was running on very little sleep, and he's going to be in pain after all of those blows, no matter what kind of drugs they have. Vice Captain Hoshina probably hasn't gotten a wink of sleep, hasn't closed his eyes once since before the whole fight started when the Wyvern Kaiju attacked. And so, why hasn't he gone to sleep? He's in a control room. He's not a technician. He really can't do much. He is burnt out. He can't fight. There's no way he could do anything if Kafka decided to go rogue. So, what is he doing in that control room? Why is he standing there when he should be sleeping, as Mina ordered him to do before the bomb incident? He's trying to protect Kafka. I really think that, because the Defense Force is going to want to slice and dice Kafka. They're going to want to cut him up, use him for parts, as we've seen. And even if they don't, Kafka's in for it. He's in for an incredibly stressful time, even after Commander Shinomiya is done with him. And the only thing that Vice Captain Hoshina can do for his friend, for his subordinate who he's trying to protect as he always has, is be there to make sure that as long as Kafka is under his care, nothing horrible happens to him. Now, Vice Captain Hoshina is also going to be weighed down by the fact that there is just not much that he can do at all, because when the Defense Force calls for Kaiju number 8, he's going to have to hand him over. So I think that is just the beginning of all of the stress and intensity that is going into Vice Captain Hoshina's face, into that tight-lipped, wide-eyed stance that he's taken there in the control room in chapter 33. So what do you think? Am I reading Vice Captain Hoshina wrong? Are there other thoughts going through his head? Did I miss anything? Leave a comment below telling me what you think about this scene. I'd love to hear from you. Go follow the links below the video to check out Humans Are Weird. I Have the Data, a book of human absurdity, available on Amazon. And peace out, my wonderful viewers.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.